Hello and welcome back to Coffee English, where we discover truths that change both your English and your life. Today, I want to tell you about a woman sitting in a coffee shop. She has a baby sleeping in a stroller beside her. She is writing in a notebook because she cannot afford a laptop. The coffee shop is warm, but her apartment is cold. She has no money for heating, so she walks her baby around Edinburgh until the child falls asleep, then comes to this coffee shop and writes. The woman is living on £70 a week from government support. In today's money, that is about $90 for 7 days. She buys cheap food, pays rent, and has almost nothing left. Some days she feels like a complete failure. She is 28 years old, divorced, struggling with depression, and completely alone in a new city. But she keeps writing. Every day, in coffee shops, in her cold apartment during precious moments when the baby naps, on trains, on napkins, anywhere she can. Why am I telling you this? Because this woman is J.K. Rowling, and what she was writing would eventually become Harry Potter. But here is the important part. She did not know that yet. She was just a struggling single mother who loved a story that lived inside her head. A story that nobody else could see. A story that 12 publishers would reject. A story that the world did not want. Until suddenly, they did. This episode is about the gap between those two moments. The gap between writing alone in coffee shops and selling millions of books. That gap is where real life happens. That gap is where your English learning happens too. And understanding this gap changes everything. So settle in with your coffee or tea, and let me share what really happened in those coffee shops and why it matters to your English journey right now. Let me take you back to June 1990. Joanne Rowling, not yet JK, is 25 years old. She is sitting on a train from Manchester to London. The train is delayed for 4 hours. She has no pen, no paper, nothing to write with. And suddenly, an idea drops into her mind fully formed. A boy who does not know he is a wizard. A school for magic. A whole world hidden inside our ordinary world. She sits there for 4 hours as the images flood her mind. Harry Potter. That is his name. She knows it immediately. She can see him clearly. A thin boy with black hair and round glasses. He does not know he is special. He thinks he is nobody. Later, Joanne said this about that moment. I have never felt such excitement about an idea before or since. For 4 hours, she just thinks. She lets the story grow. She does not write anything down because she has nothing to write with. But somehow, this makes the idea stronger. It has to live in her mind first. This is important. The story existed for hours with no physical proof. It was completely invisible. Just thoughts in one person's head. Nobody knew about it. Nobody could judge it. Nobody could tell her it was silly or impossible. The idea was purely hers. When you start learning English, you have a similar moment. Maybe you decide, I want to speak English fluently. This decision exists only in your mind at first. Nobody sees it. Nobody knows the dream living inside you. And this is actually a gift. Your dream is protected. It can grow strong in private before facing the world. That night, Joanne arrived at her flat and began writing immediately. She wrote about Harry, about Hogwarts, about magic hidden in ordinary life. She worked on it whenever she could, but life had other plans. In 1990, Joanne moved to Portugal to teach English. There she met a Portuguese journalist, fell in love, got married, and had a baby daughter named Jessica. Finally, life seemed good. She was teaching, writing, building a family. Then in 1993, everything collapsed. Her marriage ended. She took baby Jessica and moved to Edinburgh, Scotland to be near her sister. She had almost no money. She had no job. She had no home of her own at first. She had depression so severe that she later said she thought about suicide. She had a half-finished manuscript about a boy wizard, and she had a choice: keep writing or give up. Here is what nobody tells you about that choice. It was not dramatic. She did not wake up one morning and decide heroically, "I will finish this book no matter what." Real life is quieter than that. She simply kept writing because writing was the one thing that still made sense. Everything else in her life felt broken, but the story still felt whole. She applied for government support because she had no income. In Britain, they call it benefits. She received £70 per week. That is not much money. She lived in a tiny apartment. Winter came and she could not afford heating. Edinburgh winters are cold, very cold. So she developed a routine. She would put baby Jessica in the stroller and walk until Jessica fell asleep. Then she would go to her brother-in-law's coffee shop, the Elephant House, order 1 cup of coffee, and write for as long as Jessica slept. Sometimes 2 hours, sometimes less. She wrote the first Harry Potter book mostly in coffee shops, not because it was romantic or artistic, because her apartment was too cold. The coffee shop was warm, that is all. People often make poverty sound poetic later, but Joanne was very clear about this time. She said, "I was as poor as it is possible to be in modern Britain without being homeless." She felt ashamed. She felt like a failure. Her friends had careers and marriages. She had a sleeping baby and a manuscript nobody wanted. But here is the thing: she kept writing anyway. In 1995, Joanne finally finished the manuscript. It took 5 years. 5 years of writing in cold apartments and coffee shops. 5 years of rewriting. 5 years of believing in something nobody else could see. Now came the next step: finding a publisher. Her friend helped her type the manuscript properly because Joanne still could not afford a computer. They printed several copies. Printing was expensive but necessary. Then Joanne sent her manuscript to publishers. And waited. The first rejection came, then another, then another. 12 publishers rejected Harry Potter. 12. Each rejection said basically the same thing: not suitable for children, too long, not commercial enough. Children do not want to read big books anymore. One publisher wrote that Joanne should take a writing course. Another said she should get a job and stop wasting time. Some never replied at all. Imagine this moment. You worked for 5 years on something. You poured your heart into it during the hardest time of your life. And 12 professionals tell you it is not good enough. They do not just say no. They say your work has no commercial value. They say children will not read it. They essentially say you wasted 5 years. What would you do? Most people would quit. Most people would say, okay, 12 professionals cannot all be wrong. Maybe I should accept reality. But Joanne did not quit. Why? She has answered this question many times. She said she kept going because she could not imagine not finishing. The story mattered to her more than anyone's opinion of it. She wrote it first for herself because she loved it. Publication would be wonderful, but it was not the reason she wrote. This is the key. She was not writing to prove something to the world. She was writing because the story existed and needed to be told. That purpose did not depend on anyone saying yes. In your English learning, you face similar moments. Maybe someone laughs at your accent. Maybe a teacher says you are not improving fast enough. Maybe you fail a test. These are your rejections. The question is, are you learning English to prove something to others or because it matters to you personally? If you are learning for yourself, for your own growth and freedom, then other people's opinions hurt less. They cannot touch your real reason. Finally, in 1996, a small London publisher called Bloomsbury agreed to publish Harry Potter. Not because they thought it would be successful. The chairman's 8-year-old daughter read the first chapter and demanded to read the rest. Based on his daughter's excitement, the publisher said yes. Even then, they only printed 1,000 copies. They told Joanne not to expect much money from children's books. They suggested she should get a day job because she would not earn enough from writing. They even asked her to use initials instead of her full name, JK instead of Joanne, because they worried boys would not read a book written by a woman. She was so poor at this time that Bloomsbury gave her a grant of £8,000 so she could keep writing. That is about $10,000, not a fortune, just enough to survive while finishing the second book. The first Harry Potter book was published in June 1997, 7 years after that train ride, 7 years of work that nobody saw, 7 years of invisible effort, 7 years of believing in something while the world said no. What happened next is famous. The book became popular, then very popular, then a phenomenon. Within a few years, J.K. Rowling went from government support to being richer than the Queen of England. Today, over 500 million Harry Potter books have been sold. The movies made billions of dollars. Universal Studios built Harry Potter theme parks. But here is what matters for us today. That success would never have happened if Joanne had quit during the invisible years. If she had listened to the 12 publishers who said no. If she had accepted that writing in coffee shops while poor meant she was foolish. If she had decided that success only counts when other people recognize it. She became successful because she worked without applause for 7 years. The invisible work created the visible result. Now let me connect this directly to your English learning. Right now, you might be in your coffee shop moment. You are studying English, but nobody sees your effort. You practice pronunciation alone in your room. You read articles that nobody knows about. You listen to podcasts during your commute. You make mistakes that nobody witnesses. This invisible work feels lonely sometimes. You wonder if you are making progress. You wonder if anyone would even notice if you quit. You see other people who seem to speak English effortlessly, and you feel discouraged. But here is the truth. Everyone who speaks English well had invisible years. Years when they struggled with grammar that made no sense. Years when they felt stupid trying to pronounce new sounds. Years when they wanted to quit because progress felt impossible. The difference between people who become fluent and people who quit is not talent. It is not luck. It is not having perfect conditions. The difference is continuing through the invisible years. Keeping going when nobody applauds. Working when nobody watches. J.K. Rowling could have quit after the first rejection, or the 5th, or the 12th. Each time, quitting would have felt reasonable, practical even. 12 professionals said her book would not work. Why keep trying? But she kept writing, and that made all the difference. You can quit English today. You can say it is too hard, too slow, too frustrating, and nobody would blame you. Learning a language is difficult. It takes years. Results come slowly. or you can keep going. Keep studying even when you do not feel motivated. Keep practicing even when you make mistakes. Keep learning even when nobody notices your improvement. Keep building your skills in private until one day, suddenly, people notice you speak English well. They will not see the years of work. They will just see the result. And that is okay, because you will know what those coffee shop moments cost. You will know the value of invisible work. And that knowledge makes you strong in ways that easy success never could. I want to tell you something important that Joanne has spoken about openly. During those years in Edinburgh, she was not just poor. She was severely depressed. She has said that depression felt like being trapped in a dark fog. She could barely see hope or meaning in anything. At her lowest point, she thought about ending her life. She has been very honest about this. She said she did not do it because of her daughter Jessica. Her daughter needed her. That responsibility kept her alive. Writing also kept her alive. When everything else felt meaningless, the story still mattered. Creating something, even in small amounts each day, gave her a reason to continue. She later put these feelings into Harry Potter. The creatures called Dementors, which drain all happiness and hope from people, represent depression. She said, "That is what depression feels like to me, like all the happiness has been sucked out of the world." Why am I telling you this? Because your English journey might be happening during a difficult time in your life too. Maybe you are learning English while dealing with personal problems. Maybe you are studying while working a job you hate. Maybe you are practicing while feeling lonely in a new country. Maybe you are trying to improve yourself while fighting invisible battles that nobody sees. If this is you, I want you to know something. Your English practice can be more than just learning a language. It can be an anchor. Something you control when other things feel out of control. Something you build when other things are falling apart. Something that gives you purpose when everything else feels meaningless. Joanne did not write Harry Potter despite her depression. In some ways, she wrote because of it. She needed something to hold on to. She needed to create something when so much of her life felt destroyed. Writing gave her a reason to wake up each day. Your English can do the same. Not because English itself is magical, but because choosing to grow, choosing to learn, choosing to become better even when life is hard, that choice is powerful. That choice says, I am not giving up on myself even when everything is difficult. This is not positive thinking. This is survival. And sometimes survival looks like sitting in a coffee shop with a notebook, working on something nobody else believes in, because it is the one thing that still makes sense. Here is something fascinating. After Harry Potter became successful, many people asked Joanne for advice. They wanted to know the secret to her success. And she always said the same thing: write what you love, not what you think will sell. This is deeper than it sounds. She is saying that work created for yourself is stronger than work created for other people's approval. When you write for yourself, you can work through rejection because rejection does not touch your real purpose. When you write for publication, every rejection destroys your motivation because publication was the whole point. Apply this to English. If you are learning English to impress others, every mistake feels like failure. Every person who does not understand you feels like proof that you are not good enough. Your motivation depends on external validation, and external validation is unreliable. But if you are learning English for yourself, for your own freedom and growth, then other people's opinions matter less. You make mistakes and think, Okay, that shows me what to practice next. Someone does not understand you and you think, I need to work on pronunciation. Your motivation comes from inside, and that makes you unstoppable. Joanne spent 7 years working without external validation. 7 years when the only person who believed in her story was her. That was enough. She did not need publishers to believe in it to keep writing. She believed in it. That was sufficient. This is the strength of working alone. You discover that you are enough. Your own belief is enough. Your own purpose is enough. You do not need permission or approval or encouragement from the world. You just need to keep showing up. When you study English alone at night after work, you are building this strength. When you practice speaking even though nobody is listening, you are building this strength. When you keep learning even though your progress feels slow, you are building this strength. This strength becomes the foundation of everything else you achieve, not just in English, in life. Every episode, I share a phrase that captures an important idea. Today's phrase comes directly from J.K. Rowling's experience, and it fits perfectly with everything we have discussed. The phrase is, "Rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life." Joanne said these exact words in a famous speech at Harvard University in 2008. She was talking about her time in Edinburgh, living on government support, feeling like a failure. She said that hitting rock bottom, losing everything, was actually the moment that saved her. Why? Because when you have nothing left to lose, you become free. Free from the fear of failure because you already failed. Free from worrying about what people think because people already judge you. Free to focus only on what truly matters to you. Rock bottom became her foundation because it cleared away everything false. All the expectations she had about how life should be, all the pressure to succeed in traditional ways, all the fear of taking risks. None of that mattered anymore. She was already at the bottom. The only direction was up. You can use this phrase when you face difficult moments in your English journey. Maybe you feel discouraged because your progress is slow. Maybe you feel embarrassed because you made a mistake in an important conversation. Maybe you feel like giving up because learning English is harder than you expected. In those moments, remember this phrase: rock bottom can become your foundation. The hardest moments, when you feel like you are failing, are actually opportunities to build something real, something solid, something that will last. You can say, I felt really bad about my English test results, but I realized rock bottom became my foundation. Now I know exactly what I need to work on. Or, when nobody understood my accent, I felt embarrassed. But that moment became my foundation. It motivated me to practice pronunciation seriously. The phrase reminds us that failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is often the foundation of success. The lowest moments can become the strongest starting points. Everything Joanne built came from that cold Edinburgh apartment, from those coffee shop tables, from those 12 rejections. Your English success might be built the same way, from the mistakes you make today, from the frustration you feel right now, from the moments when you want to quit but choose to continue anyway. Rock bottom is not the end. It is the beginning. It is the solid ground on which you build something real. So what have we learned from Joanne's story? What truth can we take into our English learning right now? First, invisible work has value even when nobody sees it. Joanne wrote for 7 years before publication. 7 years when almost nobody knew about her book. 7 years of work that looked like nothing to outside observers. But those invisible years created everything that came after. Your English practice right now, the work nobody sees, is building the foundation of your future fluency. Second, other people's opinions do not determine your worth or your potential. 12 publishers rejected Harry Potter. 12 professionals said it would not work. They were all wrong, not because they were stupid, but because they could not see what Joanne saw. Nobody can see your potential clearly except you. Trust your own judgment about what matters. Third, the hardest times can produce the strongest work. Joanne wrote Harry Potter during the worst period of her life. Poor, depressed, alone, afraid, she did not write despite these conditions. She wrote through them, and somehow the struggle made the work deeper. Your English learning during difficult times is not wasted effort. It is building strength that easy times never create. Fourth, continuing matters more than conditions. Joanne did not have a computer or money or support or encouragement or perfect conditions. She had a notebook and coffee shops. She had a story that mattered to her. She had the choice to keep going or give up. She kept going. That made all the difference. You do not need perfect conditions to learn English. You just need to keep practicing. Fifth, success comes to those who work without applause. Not always, not guaranteed, but often. The people who continue when nobody is watching, who practice when nobody cares, who believe in themselves when nobody else does, these people build something that cannot be broken. Because it was never dependent on anyone else's approval in the first place. Now, I want to give you something practical. One small action you can take after this episode ends. Find your coffee shop. Not literally, though that is nice too. Find your space for invisible work, your place where you practice English just for yourself. Maybe it is early morning before your family wakes up. Maybe it is your commute on the train. Maybe it is late at night when the house is quiet. Find a time and place that belongs only to you and your English practice. Then protect it, make it sacred. This is your invisible work time. Nobody needs to know about it. Nobody needs to see it. Nobody needs to approve of it. This is yours. During this time, do not worry about impressing anyone. Do not think about tests or certificates or what other people will think. Just work on English because it matters to you. Read something you enjoy. Listen to something interesting. Practice speaking about topics you care about. Write thoughts in a journal. Whatever helps you connect with English personally. This invisible work, done consistently in your private space, will build your English more than any public performance. Just like Joanne's coffee shop hours built Harry Potter, your invisible practice hours will build your fluency. And on days when you feel discouraged, when you wonder if your effort matters, remember a young mother in Edinburgh. Writing in coffee shops because her apartment was too cold. Writing a story nobody wanted. Writing anyway. Because the work mattered to her, and that was enough. Your English work matters too, even when nobody sees it, especially when nobody sees it, because invisible work builds visible results. Always. Thank you for spending this time with me on Coffee English today. If Joanne's story touched something in your heart, if it helped you see your own invisible work differently, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes we need reminding that our quiet effort has value. And remember, somewhere right now, someone is working on something that will change the world. Nobody knows about it yet. Nobody believes in it yet. Nobody sees the hours of invisible work. But it is happening. That person might be you. Your English journey might be your coffee shop moment. The work nobody sees today might be the success everybody celebrates tomorrow. Keep going, keep practicing, keep believing, not because success is guaranteed, but because the work itself makes you stronger. And that strength is valuable regardless of what anyone else thinks. This has been Coffee English. Until next time, find your coffee shop and do your invisible work. The world will notice when you are ready, but you will know the truth. You will know what it cost. You will know that you built something real, and that knowing is worth everything. See you in the next episode. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.